You like what you like. Screw everybody else. Don't let them make you feel small. Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. I know I'm in my car. My husband's still asleep and I didn't want to wake him up. So, you know, do what you gotta do. This week, honestly, I really just wanted to be a chatty Cathy here. I've been seeing this conversation going around about how spice and smut is ruining the romance community or the romance reader. And as a fellow spice reader and smut reader, I feel like I need to put my 2 cents in on the subject. So that's what today is. Maybe go grab a snack, go grab a drink. We can chat about it. But I do want to say this. I first saw this from Jessen. I loved her video. I'm going to link it down below. I highly recommend you check it out. There's a great conversation going on in her comments too. But she was the original one that I saw the conversation happening on. And she made some really great points and it made me think of stuff and it made me remember stuff that I was thinking when I first started reading spice and smut. Because I was judgy. I won't lie. I totally was judgy. You know the Make games? It's like my personality. I hated it when I first read it. I literally thought that it was trash. And I thought it was so poorly written. I'm disappointed in myself now that I think about it because I love it now. But I was very judgy when I first started reading spice and smut. And now I'm obsessed with it. It's very on trend. I'm riding the spice train. You've probably seen I have a lot of spice-based videos. I'm loving it. So I have a lot to say here. I want to talk about the social media. I want to talk about new romance readers. I want to talk about how authors are changing and stuff with books, my own pet peeves. There are things that I'm seeing. But the big thing I want you guys to take away is regardless of what you read, that's what you like. Don't let someone make you feel small. You know, if they're trying to make you feel small anyways for what you read, they can just screw off, honestly. It's your pastime. Do what makes you happy, what brings you joy, okay? I read smut. I watched a video of a girl literally just dressing down smut readers and how we're just melting our brains and how we're depraved, which I already knew, how it was immoral to read it. But I just turned off the video, I was laughing, and then I went and I read like 3 smut novellas. So, you know, like, do you. Have whatever opinion you have, you enjoy whatever you like, okay? But anyways, I think a big issue with where this sort of argument is kind of popping up, some people are actually, talking of spice, getting rather spicy in the conversations here. People are using fighting words here and saying they don't want to be associated with these sorts of readers. These readers are trash. But I think a big part of this is because people don't actually understand the romance umbrella and what actually constitutes romance. There's a bunch of different subgenres. Yes, you can say like historical, dark, gothic, all that jazz, but I'm talking on like a heat level in more of a generic sense of the romance subgenres. So, talking of that, I made this graphic here. You'll see that we go from romance to smut, okay? I am gonna say some things that are gonna make you upset potentially. But let's just start with this spectrum. Each of these subgenres have a spectrum in and of itself. But the romance on the left side, it doesn't matter if it's clean, doesn't matter if it has sex in it. This is kind of your standard romance where there's a heavy focus on the emotional side of the relationship. But once you start moving along the spectrum, it's gonna start heating up. Spicy romance, this still has a plot outside of the relationship, outside the emotionality or the physical stuff. It could be fantastical, it could be an adventure, doesn't matter what, but there is more physical stuff within the book. There's oftentimes more sex scenes. It's usually described in a more gratuitous way, if you will. I don't mean that in a negative way, but the words are a little bit harsher. You're going to hear cock, you're going to hear pussy. Where regular romance, it's softer. You almost talk around the body parts. But as soon as you go into erotic romance, this is where everybody's getting hung up, I feel like. People seem to think that if there's a lot of sex or if it's really kinky, it's really taboo, then it's automatically erotic. That's not true. Erotic or erotica is very, very specific. There's literally only one plot that it can be, and that's usually some form of sexual awakening. The character growth is purely through the sex, all right? So if you try to take out the sex scenes within the book, you don't have a book. Where spicy romance, you can have quite a bit of sex in the book, but if that has nothing to do with the plot, if you could take out that sex scene and the plot can still move along for the book, then that's spicy romance. It's not erotic. And a lot of people get hung up on that. Everybody seems to think that erotic automatically means lots of sex. It doesn't. Now, moving on. The erotica and the smut. Notice how it doesn't say romance under it? That's because technically it's not romance. I personally think of it as romance in my mind because we're still dealing with people basically getting it on. But the thing is erotica and smut do not have to have a happily ever after. So the people who are saying that it's not romance, I don't want to be associated with these people who read this crap, technically they have foundation for it. Whatever. If it's going to make you feel better to try and put me down, go ahead and do it, babe. It's not going to do anything for me. I will continue to read it and enjoy it. But there is foundation for it. That being said, I know that spice has kind of like taken over everything. It's very much on trend. People are struggling to find the books that they really want. So I did try to do something to hopefully help, but I made this other graphic that gives you some keywords that will hopefully help you find the books you want. Clean over on the left here. That's going to be like maybe a kiss. If you want to maybe have sex scenes in it, but you don't want to read it, say fade to black. Your standard romance, honestly, you guys, it's just going to be difficult for you to find books that don't have spice. What I'd recommend is go into the comments. If there's a bunch of people rating the spice level, then it has a spiciness quality to it. But if you don't really see those within the comments, it's typically going to be a standard romance. That's my tip there. Your spicy and your erotic romance are the same things that I just described. Spicy being the fact that there's an outside plot that has nothing to do with the sex, but there's still quite a bit of sex in the story. Erotic romance has that plot where basically the whole book's gonna be sex. Now, you see this gap here. This is what I think is emerging, and I think this is because of social media. I'm calling this smutty romance. It's in between spicy, in between erotic. Essentially, we're trying to take the plot that you still have within spicy stuff, where it can be that fantastical or that adventure-based plot, has nothing to do with the sex, but you're going to start having way more sex within the book. Almost on like tier with the erotic stuff. But the distinct thing is that the plot is outside of the sex. An example of this is going to be The Never King. All right? Spicy romance, an example, is going to be A King of Battle and Blood. There is some sex in it, but there's definitely a plot that's taking up a good chunk of at least the first book. Where The Never King, there's sex throughout that thing, all right? And the plot has nothing to do with the actual sex itself. Those are just kind of almost like bonus scenes, if you will. The plot has to do with Peter Pan finding his shadow. Now, an erotic romance, if you're wondering what that would be, a great example would be all those like Disney villain Katie Robert books, so like Desperate Measures. That literally has to do, the plot has to do with sex. It's a sexual awakening. So, hopefully that helps you guys in kind of understanding what these books are and what to kind of use to help find the books you want. All right. But speaking of the social media stuff, smutty romance. Like I said, I think it's emerging. I think because sex sells and social media right now, everything's so visual. It's like a bunch of commercials, whether you're watching reels or shorts or TikToks. That's really creating the demand, if you will, honestly. And I'm totally at the mercy of it too. I've seen reels where there's one sentence, you guys. It's one freaking sentence. And they had like a really good actor say that line. And I'm sucked in, and I just immediately go buy the book. I did that with Phantom, and then I hated it. And I think a big part of that is we're seeing so much of these little mini commercials, if you will, and then we go and buy the book expecting a certain thing because our brain automatically goes into what we like. So we start to turn that one sentence into a scenario that we're going to really enjoy. And then you get it, and you're like, oh, this was erotica. I didn't want that, you know? So I think that's part of the problem, is not just that the industry's changing and that on social media we're seeing all this spice, but also we are starting to not really look at reviews. We're seeing something, getting an instant dose of dopamine when we watch these reels, and we're immediately going out and we're buying it. You know? And the other problem with social media is you do have content creators where they create this stuff and they know that sex sells. They might have never actually even read it, to be honest, but they know what sentences are going to trigger things. And you can get affiliate sales. So if you have a link to these books, people can actually make money off of it if they're signed up as an affiliate. They have to disclose that to you, by the way. Just so you know. But there definitely can be some scenarios here, like The Never King, I never really liked. I don't know why it's rated as high as it is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously. But I'm kind of curious if a big part of that is because people's own sort of decisions on the book or their viewpoint of the book has been altered because they're seeing all of these really positive kind of reviews, but not quite reviews when they're watching these TikToks and these shorts. So it's interesting because you can't always trust the content creators that are out there. That's why you really got to find the people that you really enjoy. It's still important to read reviews, but I get it. Sometimes it's hard. You just, it sold you on that one sentence. But because of that, and TikTok and Instagram, I feel like are really driving these sales. We're in like all-time massive book sales right now, and it's because of social media. But that creates the demand, right? So then authors and publishers are going to start focusing on different things. So I do agree that I feel like not, like Jessen makes this point. Again, highly recommend you watch her video. But I do agree that I feel like authors are starting to change their styles a little bit to kind of fit the demand. And I think we're in the early stages. I'm hoping we're going to come out of it. This is where I have a problem. I have no problem with spice. I love spice. I think it's great. But I don't think a lot of authors know how to use it as a tool. If I'm being completely honest, I've been saying this for like the last year. And this is why I feel like historical romance is top tier, because they know how to work the emotionality into it and still get the reader like hot and bothered or whatever it might be. I feel like a lot of times authors, King of Battle and Blood is a great example of this. They have this plot line, which is great, but then they're throwing in, whether they did it or the publisher told them to do it, they're throwing in these random sex scenes, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it flows. It's just kind of there as bonus material, and they're not utilizing it in a way that can really tell you a lot about the character, like their internal characteristics. And that's the thing I'm bummed out about. I want to have sex scenes within it. I don't care if they're soft. I don't care if they're hard. I don't care if it's a sad situation. I think sex is such a great way to tell a lot about a character. Like, for example, let's say we have a guy. Let's say he's an invader. He can be the villain if you want. He's an invader. He's very gruff. He's very demanding. He's very hard to everyone that he speaks to. Let's say he takes this girl. She doesn't want to be with him. It can be an enemies to lovers sort of situation. And they're always butting heads constantly. But maybe once they finally get to the scene where we have the intimate scene or the sex scene, all of a sudden that demandingness, that gruffness, that harshness is gone. And he starts just to be very, very soft, and he wants to do whatever she needs. Like his character starts to flip a little bit. That's showing you his internal characteristics. Makes you start to feel like, okay, is this all a front that he's putting on? Is this a character that he has to put up, that he feels like he has to do when he goes out into the world? And then when he comes to her, she's his like softness, and he starts to kind of be more of himself. Is someone else controlling him? Whatever it might be. You can do a lot with that. Or you can flip it around even and actually create like a true villain, and you can make a sex scene really creepy and disturb you and make you uncomfortable. It's all about word choice, and that's really where it comes into the skill set of the author, because you can take the same sentence meaning the same thing but use different words and make it sound really scary and creepy, or get you really hot and bothered. So I'm hoping we're going to start to get into that. I feel like I said, like we're early on in this trend of having these sex scenes within these books. So we're kind of just having them there as almost bonus material. They don't necessarily work within the book. I'm hoping we're going to start to transition where the publishers are going to start demanding like, hey, the flow is basically gone between these two chapters. We need to work this in a little bit more. Or start asking the authors, or the authors even asking themselves, why would he act like this in the bedroom? Does this fit him? What do I want to say about him? Things like that. I haven't found anything like that yet. And I really liked A King of Battle and Blood, but I hated all of the sex in it. I hated it because it felt like it didn't work. But I thought the storyline was really neat. It actually sparked my own like story in my head that I would love to write. The other thing, talking about social media though, is it's not just like these reels and these TikToks and these shorts. It's also like not really the emergence, they've been around, but audiobooks. Audiobooks are so much more prevalent now, especially having like really good actors, the voices that they're using. There's new apps and stuff coming out where like they're actually recording in a way where like you're hearing the panting now. It's, we're progressing along this spice and smutty sort of train. Again, I love it. The Make Games, great example. Love that freaking book. I got all the audiobooks because the actors, top notch. All of this is kind of playing into this demand, and I think that's what's hard for those individuals who just want to be swept off their feet, because this is what's on trend. Everything goes out of trend too, but this is the trend that we're on right now, so you are going to kind of have to deal with it. I'm hoping that using those words that I gave you in that graphic will help, like saying clean or closed door, or if you want something spicy or if you want something erotic, that will help you find the different things that you would actually like. I don't know, but yeah, that's it, I guess. There's probably more, but my brain is starting to turn to mush right now. I think I need to go eat, but those are my 2 cents. Really, just, I want to circle back to the fact that you like what you like. Screw everybody else. Don't let them make you feel small. And if you like to read smut and you like weird smut, maybe come join mine and April's book club. Okay? We all like what we like. That whole saying of don't yuck somebody else's yum, personally, I'm not a big fan of that, because we all have our own opinions. Don't be a douche, but if you don't like it, that's fine. I know not everybody's gonna want a big sexy mantis in their book. I'll take it. So yeah, you guys like what you like. We're on the spice trend. It is what it is. Social media is gonna affect demand, as always. Trends change. We'll come out of it. And hopefully we'll get to a point where sex is used a little bit more as a tool. And if you guys know any books like that, you let me know. I'll catch you guys later. Have a great rest of your week, I guess. Okay?